Welcome back everyone to the Ready or Not lore series, where in today's episode we will be discussing the Costa Vino Border Reserve. This video will be divided up into two sections, the first being all in-game / developer confirmed information, and the second being my own theories as to where the world and story may go in the future. A joint task force operation between Border TAC, FISA, and SWAT has been authorized to stop the exfiltration of key Los Locos targets fleeing across an ancient underground tunnel into Tijuana. We don't know of any suspects or civilians on site, however, we do have information from an informant.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What do you got for me?
I've got something big, but I'm gonna need immunity or whatever, because I'm risking my life telling you this.
It's the same deal as always. But you know I'm fair. If it's good, we'll talk when you're finished.
Alright, well, this is good. I've been watching this place. A ranch.
A ranch?
Yeah, man, a ranch. But hear me out. It's a front. The real deal is what goes on inside and what happens in the backyard. They're running everything through this place, man. People, drugs, cash, you name it, it's passing through.
A coyote den?
This isn't just a coyote den. I wouldn't risk myself for one of them. This is the coyote den. It's the primary shuttle point for the Los Locos into the city and back down into Mexico.
I'm listening.
Good, because that's not it. They are moving shit tonight. Big things, man. I've seen them preparing stuff for days now. The streets are buzzing with it. I don't know what, I really don't. But if you want to shut down a tunnel and get your hands on some big Los Locos names, I'd get myself a team and head out into the desert.
You got an address?
Yeah, it's way out in the lowlands on the Costa Vino border. A ranch called Rancho del Sueños.
Cute name.
What?
Yeah, nothing. Just carry on.
Right. So it's this ranch over by the border, derelict sort of place. At least it was the last time I was there, but that's just a front. They process everything in the house, but the tunnels, they start in the back. There's this river underground, and they have a whole functional dock set up that they use to move things quickly. But you gotta be careful. It's a fucking labyrinth down there.
This is good. Keep talking.
What do you mean good? This is a gold mine for you. What more do you want from me, man?
I want real details. Something that's actually going to help us.
Details? I'm giving them to you on a plate.
What are we going to find there? Where should we look? You got a route through the tunnels? Are there any traps?
I don't know any of that. I was there ages ago and got taken in and taken out. All I remember is there's lots of branching tunnels, but only one way through. They won't have it trapped on account of the traffic moving through. They've got weapons down there, so as soon as they know you're coming, things will change.
This is good. We'll take a look.
It's more than good. I give you my word. It's the real deal. So, how about my immunity?
We'll see. If this checks out like you say, I don't think that will be a problem. Now, you better get going. This has been a long call. Dump the phone, and I'll get a new one to you. I'll be in touch.
So, this unknown informant tells Detective Blake about the Coyote Den, the major den where Los Locos moves everything from Mexico into the US. According to the informant, it's located underneath Rancho del Sueños and will most likely house many big-named Los Locos members. However, it's a labyrinth under there. This then leads us to the mission briefing.
Listen up, everybody. We've had a location confirmed of an active coyote stash house in Huerto Mesa. We've been following some leads for a while. A source just confirmed that the Los Locos are using this particular network and planning a mass evacuation tonight. We're talking people, products, and cash. We've been given access to the video feeds from the Border Patrol drone, and surveillance is underway. The chopper is fueled and ready for my signal. We have no time to lose here. The good news is, we've got aerial imagery of the site. There's a long road that leads to a ranch the locals call Rancho del Sueños. Ironic, right? Who says these losers don't have a sense of humor? The den starts in the backyard, but we need to go through the house to get there. I doubt they've got any traps set up, but we need to move with as much caution as we do urgency. The bad news is that once we hit the tunnels, we're blind as bats. We've got no idea how deep they go. how many branches there are, or where they lead. I know we've dealt with coyotes before, and they rarely give us any trouble, but we're dealing with Los Locos, too. We need to be prepared for anything. We need to bring as many suspects back as we can. I want a small team to sweep the outbuildings and then set up shop in the ranch, just in case. With everything that we know is being moved through these tunnels, we know the Los Locos won't hesitate to shoot. They are moving a lot of things at once, so it's going to be busy down there. We need to bring as much and as many people back up as we can. The coyotes rarely give us trouble, and the immigrants are mostly just looking in the wrong place for a better life. Cuff them and move on. We have no idea how many people are down there, but intel says it's one of their main tunnels. I don't think I have to remind you that lethal force is only to be used in self-defense or to prevent a situation from escalating. We need to communicate on this one, because we're all going to be blind. Clear details and no chatter. I don't like sending you all underground. Get in, do your jobs, and get back out. Any questions? Good. Now get to work.
So they basically reiterate what we already heard from the informant. Lots of Los Locos down there, and we're going into a maze completely blind. Also, before we go forward, I just want to mention a new faction we were introduced to. That being Border TAC, or the Border Patrol Tactical Team. Like how FISA is the FBI, Border TAC is based on BORTAC, or the Border Patrol Tactical Unit. They are mentioned in the briefing as well as through unlockable equipment, but that's about it. Arriving on site at the US-Mexico border, we find Rancho del Sueños right alongside the wall. Now, just to give you all a reminder, Los Sueños, while being this universe's version of LA, is actually located where San Diego should be along the US-Mexico border. This is why Los Sueños SWAT is involved in this raid, because it's happening right in their backyard. Entering the barn, we find beds placed into stalls, as well as multiple suitcases. Exiting the barn, we find what looks like a yellow butterfly graffiti with an arrow pointing to the next building. Inside, we find more beds and suitcases, but not much else. Before we enter the house, if we look up, we can spot the drone Border TAC is using to survey the area, which is just a nice little detail. Inside the main house, we find it in poor condition. Trash is stacked up against the walls, appliances are broken, and graffiti of Los Locos covers the walls. Inside the kitchen, we can find a handful of presumably forged passports, and in the next room over, we find a shrine dedicated to some kind of saint or Mother Mary, possibly. I really have no idea, but scrawled out all over the walls are prayers. Some of them say, "Please take care of me, take care of the travelers, and pray for us." There's also a handful of names written out as well. Entering the middle of the house, we find another butterfly tag and finally find the tunnel. Entering, we quickly discover the informant was right. It's a maze. Multiple tunnels twist and turn all over the place, leading us to who knows where. And as we explore, we can find more of these butterfly tags pointing out of the tunnel. After a little bit of exploring, we arrive at a strange sight. Ruins. It appears the coyotes' work was cut out for them, as they connected their tunnels to an ancient underground ruin. What's even stranger is that when looking around, we find paintings, with one in particular being quite different. I have no idea what this is trying to depict. Flying worm things, bipedal shrimp people, a person with long sprouting fingers, and several people celebrating something. Around the corner, we find another painting with more animals depicted and several people using tools and sleds, perhaps. There are some other paintings nearby, but we'll discuss them more in the theory section, so let's just move on. The tunnels eventually lead us to a massive cave system. Stalagmites and tights cling to the floor and ceilings, and we find a massive subterranean river system. We even find a boat, which basically implies that this river system is massive and spits out somewhere in Mexico. This explains how Los Locos are able to move such large quantities of people, narcotics, and weapons into Los Sueños. It's all basically happening right beneath their feet. While that is interesting in its own right, next to the boat landing, we find the most clear depiction of cave art we've seen. It's as strange as the rest, but they definitely detail something important. And with that, that's basically all the important lore bits found on this map. So let's look at the evidence. First, we have a recovered phone with a text from an unknown number. The text reads, LSPD breaking distribution. Go to Muerto Mesa Tunnel with what you have now. Bring cash for trip $150,000 from safe. They reply with, okay driving, and get a response saying, go straight to water. Don't look if you hear children crying. No children in tunnel. After this concerning revelation about children, LSPD Search and Rescue conducted an operation to locate this crying child, but were unsuccessful. Further expeditions are planned to travel up and down this subterranean river system. Side note, this sounds like some SCP shit, and I am all for it. Next, we have a watch list written in Spanish that depicts Border Patrol routes and times in the area. Some notes have been made about various guards, detailing their appearances. One or two have been crossed off, noting that they have been dealt with. Some aerial images from a drone are also attached, with markings depicting where the guards walk to from their vehicles. And finally, we have a piece of art found in a collapsed section of the ancient caverns. Upon closer inspection, the rock contained unique carvings, one that told tales of man killing man, a large storm washing away the ancient people, and of extreme suffering. And with that, let's discuss some theories. Before we get into anything, I'd just like to mention that this map is heavily inspired from the ending of the phenomenal movie Sicario, directed by my favorite director, Denis Villeneuve. Spoilers for the film if you haven't seen it yet, which, what are you doing? Go watch it, it's amazing. In fact, go watch all of Denis Villeneuve's filmography because they're amazing, then come back to this video. Sicario follows FBI agent Kate Macer as she is recruited by a government task force led by the mysterious Matt Graver and his even more mysterious partner, Alejandro. Kate initially joins the task force under the impression that they are going after a drug lord responsible for violence on the border. However, she soon discovers that their methods are extreme and their objectives quite murky. As she becomes increasingly embroiled in their operations, she grapples with her own moral compass and the realization that the line between good and bad, illegal and illegal, is not as clear as she once believed. Kate eventually discovers she was just a pawn that would allow the CIA and Alejandro to operate legally on US soil with the sole purpose of pushing the cartels to work with one Colombian-owned business so that the federal government could better control them going forward. The main themes of the film are about moral ambiguity and governmental corruption. Sicario delves deep into the moral complexities surrounding the war on drugs and the lengths to which individuals and institutions are willing to go in order to combat it. Characters often find themselves grappling with ethical dilemmas and questioning the righteousness of their actions. Sicario also highlights the presence of corruption within governmental agencies on both sides of the border. It raises questions about the integrity of institutions tasked with upholding the law and the extent to which they may be compromised by political agendas or personal gain. Does any of that sound familiar? It's clear Sicario was not only an inspiration for this map, but most likely an inspiration for a lot of Ready or Not's gray areas. As we delve deeper into the world, we see more and more gray. The city is collapsing due to corruption. People are trying to make ends meet. Those two factors together create desperation, and desperation creates opportunities for the wicked. It's all this relentless cycle that seemingly never ends. Now, completely shifting focus, let's talk about cave paintings. This is not the first time we've heard of these, or more specifically, this great storm they're depicting. All the way back during the Vol house raid, we found his daughter, Janie, was studying this phenomenon. The book she has reads, "A devastating event or series of events swept through ancient Mesoamerica, causing drought, disease, crop loss, and mass death across the land." What exactly the events were are unclear. Archaeologists just know it was very significant in human history. And speaking of human history, ancient cultures from all over the world have had various flood myths that often share common themes and motifs. These myths typically involve a catastrophic flood that destroys most of humanity and sometimes all life on Earth, with a few individuals or animals surviving to repopulate the world. Examples of flood myths from various cultures include the story of Noah's Ark in the Bible, the Epic of Gilgamesh from ancient Mesopotamia, the Hindu story of Manu and Matsya, and the myth of Deucalion in Pyrrha in Greek mythology. Despite their cultural and massive geographical differences, these myths all share some kind of commonality. So an ancient culture depicting some kind of great storm that kills many of their people and destroying the land is not uncommon. However, a flood myth that originates from the Mesoamerican region is the Tlaloc flood myth. Descending from Aztec mythology and centering around Tlaloc, the god of rain and water, the myth is about the many cycles of creation and destruction that inhabit Earth. The Aztec believe the world has undergone several of these cycles. In this version, it is said that Tlaloc became displeased with humanity due to their lack of gratitude and reverence for him. As a result, he decided to punish humanity by sending a devastating flood to cleanse the earth. So perhaps these paintings are depicting this story or an equivalent one. Now, what does this have to do with everything going on in Los Sueños? These flood myths are all about out with the old and in with the new. Cleanse the corruption, cleanse the chaos, and start anew. Last episode, we discussed this butterfly concept being brought up during the podcast snippet we listened to. Butterflies symbolize this exact thing, change. And what do we find on this map but butterfly graffiti and cave paintings of a great storm? Two symbolic representations of change. So as we discussed last time, these themes of change are extremely prevalent in all the societies and organizations and etc. operating behind the scenes. Something big is going to happen to Los Sueños. Something big is going to change. Also, these implications of ancient flood myths for the ongoing events in Los Sueños suggest a deeper layer of meaning to the conflicts witnessed within the game. If these myths indeed represent a cycle of destruction and rebirth, then perhaps the turmoil experienced by the city is not merely the result of contemporary criminal activities, but part of a larger cosmic narrative playing out. Maybe we will see the end of Los Sueños, a modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah struck down by an ancient entity casting a flood unto the sinners, the diabolical and the wicked, erasing the corruption, cleansing the area in life-giving waters when so many are dying from the drought. Maybe the end of Los Sueños is upon us. Maybe the end of the world is upon us. Maybe the cycle is about to begin anew. Tlaloc will return. Nay, maybe an even more ancient entity will arise, one with little sympathy for our petty squabbles. Or not. It's probably just a coincidence. It's a coincidence, right? Right?